Welcome back to the Daily Dope Show. I almost didn't even do this story. uh, but whatever. Here we go. The DEA just placed a marijuana derived drug in Schedule 5. I mean, it's been a while since I looked at the scheduling thing, but for some reason, it didn't even occur to me that there was a Schedule 5. I wonder why that is. Um, Maybe it's because it's just some kind of invented thing so that only select people can make money off of something, I guess. I don't know. Let's dig into this. And for that we have Kyle Jaeger. Man, thanks again, Kyle, for coming with the stories. And thanks again, Marijuana Moment, for all you do. Sooner or later I'm going to just quit doing what I do, and I'm just going to send everybody that don't know about you guys somehow back over to you, because I don't know what else you would need besides these guys. Um, and one more before I get started reading it is, like, we knew that there was going to be a schedule coming. Um, People speculated things like, oh, it's going to be a Schedule 2 or a Schedule 3, which everybody's pretty familiar with those. Um, Most of your prescriptions that you take are either one or the other. Okay. But nobody expected the Schedule 5. Nobody thought it wouldn't even be scheduled. Um, and between the time that this thing started, this whole Epidiolex thing began, the DEA has been talking about, or people have been speculating about, oh, they're going to change the scheduling and this and that. But the whole way through, it was like, well, they're not going to, change their mind on anything else that has to do with marijuana being on Schedule 1. Some people have gone out and speculated that, in fact, by making Epidiolex, since it's a plant-based CBD drug, by making that a schedule, a controlled substance, then they will have to rethink the schedule classification of marijuana as a whole or something. I just don't think that's the case. I never did. And I always looked at this as just being a protectionism kind of regulation process, that this was all just geared to make it so one drug company was going to make a drug out of one compound from the plant, get that through the process. This has all been done already, by the way, with synthetic THC. And I don't know. I mean, I just never thought that this was that big of a deal. But at the same time, I didn't, I didn't anticipate it being like some kind of thing that's going to open the door further for anybody that has any concerns about whole plant cannabis being on the schedule, on the Controlled Substances Act. And furthermore, while we were going through this whole process with GH Pharmaceuticals, while we're in this process, we have GW, I'm sorry, I said GH. While we're in this process, we have the DEA and the FDA going around talking about how, CBD, plant derived, even if it's hemp derived, is a Schedule 1 drug. That's all we've been hearing from the DEA and the FDA. We asked for clarification, and they just keep saying, well, we don't want any oil that's derived from the plant. And they're not talking about the seed, they're talking about the plant material. Any oils derived from that is going to be considered a Schedule 1 drug. Okay? Any questions? I've been clear about how, what they've been telling us the whole time. And I know that people like to go out there and speculate, and people have came at me a little bit hard about that. And I'm not trying to take the position of the government here. I'm totally anti the government on this issue all the way. I mean, come on. How well do you know me? I'm the weed commando over here, man. Come on. And as the weed commando, I fight this notion that you could, you know, act like the whole plant is not medicinal, but we can just take every little component out of it one by one and say, oh, this is medicinal. This over here is medicinal. This is medicinal and that's medicinal. The U.S. government already has a patent on all this medicinal shit. They know about the antioxidant properties. It's all in their patent. So, you know, the fact that they're doing this slow dance with us on this scheduling thing on CBD is a fucking joke to me. All right? This is just a beyond a joke. This is a sick joke. And it's disgusting. And it's making people pay the price with their health. We could see a crackdown on CBD. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible. I mean, when you see them do all these moves and it seems like it could lead to something, and you look at what things it could lead to, one of the things that you think it could lead to, if you're a smart person, is them saying that, you know, things like Haley's Hope or Charlotte's Web are, you know, they're not out of Schedule 1. And therefore, since they didn't go through the jump through the hoops like GW Pharmaceuticals did, then they're going to get cracked down on. And I don't think that's going to happen. You know why I don't think that's going to happen? Because they could have done that before this happened. Now they have a precedent where they're like, okay, we've looked at a drug and it is CBD, and we're like, okay, just CBD only. We gave it a Schedule 5. When you're talking about Haley's Hope or any other hemp-derived CBD products that have very little, if any, THC at all in them, I think Charlotte's Web, they've bred the THC practically all the way out of it. It's down to hemp levels or whatever. And there's actual hemp-derived CBD products coming from every state that has a hemp program in place that has been making commercially viable hemp products because of the 2014 Farm Act. Having said all of this, believe me, guys, a crackdown is still possible. Or it is at least justifiable. Because they're like, well, you know, we can say this or that. But is it going to happen? It's highly doubtful. And it seems like it would have happened before this designation. And there has been crackdowns. Let's not get it twisted. There was major shipments of CBD products, hemp-based, that were heading to New York or heading there or heading here or there or wherever. And they were intercepted by the FDA or the DEA or whoever intercepts the shipments, and then they, you know, call in the feds. So, okay, I think I'm done talking. I basically told you my opinion on this whole situation. So let me go ahead and read it. The Drug Enforcement Administration placed marijuana-derived drug in Schedule 5 of the Controlled Substances Act on Thursday. The medication, Epidiolex, contains purified cannabidiol, CBD, a non-psychoactive ingredient in cannabis. It was approved as a treatment option for severe forms of epilepsy by the Food and Drug Administration in June. Following that approval, the DEA was given 90 days to make a scheduling decision for the product. For the product, not the compound, the product. Quote, now that Epidiolex has been approved by the FDA, it has a currently accepted medical use in treatment in the United States for purposes of the Controlled Substances Act. DEA Acting Administrator Adam Dillon wrote, don't know him, quote, accordingly, Epidiolex no longer meets the criteria for placement in Schedule 1 of the CSA. As much as I am an advocate for cannabis and, hate the United Nations Commission on Psychotropic Drugs, I don't think this passes the mustard for, you know what I mean? Like, this is the federal government and the DEA who basically, the reason that they have this whole war on drugs, you know, because Nixon got the memo from the United Nations and he decided that he was going to go along with the United Nations on their treaties to ban all drugs that they didn't like. It's like some of the only treaties the United States gives a fuck about. And we follow them to the exact letter. And if anything, we guide the extreme letter of the law method of following the Commission on Psychotropic Drugs scheduling system. So since all that's true, you would think the DEA all of a sudden is, you know, like, huh? This is all because of corrupt bullshit, money. That's what it is, guys. This is all corrupt bullshit. If you got enough money to grease the skids, guys, you can go to the FDA and get your approval so you can do your research, and then you can go do your research, and then you can come back and do this and do that. As long as in your business plan you plan on putting them out in individual measurable doses, they don't mind. They like that. That's what they want. That's just a little insider tip. If you want to get your business plan approved by the FDA, got to end up with some doses that they can sell and regulate the piss out of. DEA will continue to support sound and scientific research that promotes legitimate therapeutic uses for FDA-approved constituent components of cannabis consistent with federal law, Dillon later said in a press release. Quote, DEA is committed to continuing to work with our federal partners to seek ways to make the process for research more efficient and effective. Epidiolex is the first purely cannabis-derived medication to gain FDA approval. However, the FDA has previously approved drugs that contain synthetic THC or dronabinol, including Marinol and Syndrose. The DEA classified those prescription medications as Schedule 3 and 2, respectively. But Epidiolex is unique because its primary ingredient is a natural component of cannabis, CBD. Because of that, there has been speculation that the DEA's decision to schedule the drug would have wide-ranging implications for CBD products overall. But the DEA's Federal Register filing says the action does not apply to CBD products other than Epidiolex, and any generic versions of FDA may approve in the future. So basically, like, if you wanted to make a, generic version of Epidiolex, let's say, you have to get FDA approval first. As further indicated, and by the way, I'm not trying to tell somebody that, yeah, you can go ahead and go make some money and compete with GW Pharmaceuticals. Go ahead and try it, you know. I mean, I don't know how good they grease the skids to prevent the FDA from approving another company to experiment with a completely safe compound like CBD, but basically they've already like done the blueprint, laid down the groundwork. There's no way you can patent it. You know, you can patent what they got. They got a specific recipe that probably has like food coloring and some kind of sweetener in it or some shit, some neurotoxin or another, so that, you know, that they can patent an exact chemical formulation that's called Epidiolex. You can do the same thing. Go ahead. Go put your patent in. Just make your recipe a little different. CBD the primary ingredient. I think they need a little THC in their juice, man. According to the people I know that take cannabis-derived medicine for seizures. So the quote is, quote, as further indicated, any material, compound, mixture, or preparation other than Epidiolex that falls within the CSA definition of marijuana, including any non-FDA approved CBD extract that falls within such definition, remains a Schedule 1 controlled substance under the CSA. That's right here in this Federal Registrar document, which is linked in the article here by Kyle. So yeah, like I don't know, I'm really there. Yeah, there's the link right there. So if you go to Marijuana Moment, and this is probably still on the top of the list today, but if not, I will go ahead and put the link to this article in the description, and you can check out whatever else is linked in the article. Placing the drug lower on the schedule of Controlled Substances Act does not mean it becomes fully legal. And by the way, this is just Epidiolex that was Schedule 5. It's not CBD. They didn't Schedule 5 CBD. And I'm not sure how that works. I mean, like I said, Epidiolex is CBD plus whatever is in their recipe, and that's what it is, and that's what the drug is that got Schedule 5'd. It will be a regulated product and exclusively available via prescription. Marijuana remains strictly prohibited, a Schedule 1 drug under federal law. GW Pharmaceuticals, which developed Epidiolex, released a statement Thursday applauding the DEA's scheduling decision. Quote, "We are pleased that the DEA has placed Epidiolex in the lowest restriction schedule because it will help ensure that patients with the LGS or Dravet syndrome, two of the most debilitating forms of epilepsy, can access this important new treatment option through their physicians," Justin Gover, GW CEO, said. Quote, "With this final step in the regulatory process completed, we are working hard to make Epidiolex available within the next 6 weeks, as we know there is excitement for a standard version of cannabidiol that has undergone the rigor of controlled clinical trials and has been approved by the FDA." Well, let me just say this, Mr. Gover, that while you're saying that, which is absurd, nobody's out there, and I seen, the presser, and I seen the marketing materials for this, and the people that they're saying like, oh yeah, now we use this and everything's all good. I mean, I just feel like there was something there that was just fake, all right? It just had some fakeness feeling to it. And by the way, that was the people that said that they couldn't trust going to Colorado. It's not that, and I'm judging by the fact that A, they didn't look like they were broke, and B, they weren't getting arrested by CPS and taking their kids away, and C, they genuinely sounded fake, and also it didn't seem to me like they were really, sincere about this notion that they were really cared about whether this quote here, that the cannabidiol that has undergone the rigor of controlled clinical trials and has been approved by the FDA. It's like no one is excited about a standardized version of cannabidiol. That talking point there is complete bullshit. That is like the old pharmaceutical method of medicine, that you have to have like specific dose amounts, and that you can test the effectiveness of a single dose, so then you can know if you have to administer more doses, then how many doses could be. You got to know the LD50 number, because too many doses might kill somebody, right? And then you got to know what kind of doses mix with other drugs and what kind of dose levels it's dangerous at. All of these things are important, except for CBD. None of that shit matters. You can't overdose on it. You can't even get impaired by it. It's the same every time, no matter where you derive it from. Now, the thing about that is like, if you derive it from a plant that produces a lot of flower and very dense flowers, and is, basically has a lot of CBD in it, that's called marijuana. Hemp don't really have CBD that abundantly. You got to have like a lot more hemp plants to get that kind of CBD. And when you do that with marijuana plants, then you're going to end up with some THC too. It's possible to separate that in a lab situation. And there has been people that, had high CBD, high or not high, but, moderately high THC levels, marijuana, that they ended up making, CBD medicine with lower concentrations of THC than the ratio that was in the actual flower, because they were able to extract the CBD from the THC, which is really easy to do. And you could primitively do it really easy. Gravity can do it real easy. But it's quite easy to do in a lab. It's no big deal. So if you think that this talking point is anything but a sales point for maybe somebody that don't know jack shit about any of this, for them to try to make somebody else convinced that there's something going on here, then you don't know. I'm just told you. I just educated you that nobody, literally nobody, is excited about a standardized version of cannabidiol. Anybody that's been considering it is doing it because they know it's safe. You know why? Because there hasn't been a single case of anybody having any problems with using cannabidiol to treat seizures in any epilepsy, whether it's Dravet's, which is really hardcore, or Nalia Patelia. There's like, I don't know, 5 kinds of really bad epilepsy that people have gotten sick of big pharma, quite frankly, and was like, we can't live like this big pharma solution. And they're not sitting here getting excited about some standardized version. That's bullshit. So we're going to look at this list of schedules here. This Controlled Substances Act. They wanted you to go check this out, by the way. Schedule 1, substances in this schedule have no currently accepted medical use in the United States, lack of accepted safety for use under medical supervision, and a high potential for abuse. So, as you can probably think of in your head, anything in marijuana, none of it, not the THC, not even if you extract THC to be like 99.9%, and dab that shit, do a gram dab and just smash it in your dab rig, it's not going to hurt you. It's completely harmless. There's no way you could get hurt by that unless you don't sit down right and fall because you got a pretty good head rush. Now, when you're saying no accepted medical use, that's a legal statement that the FDA has bastardized. It's got cannabis has more medical uses than any other compound or drug that we know of. Think about that. When people are like, "Oh, you guys act like marijuana is the cure-all," maybe not. I've never said it cures anything. It treats a lot of shit, though. I mean, think about a Vicodin. A Vicodin only treats pain. And you can break pain down into 50 different categories and be like, oh, it treats 25 or 30 different kinds of pain. I'm not talking about how many different things you could say as diagnoses that it can be prescribed for. That's wrangling. I'm talking about how many things does this shit treat? Well, qualifying conditions to get a medical marijuana card in most states are at least a dozen. These are all varying conditions that have nothing to do with each other. So to say that there's no currently accepted medical use of cannabis in the United States is just horse shit. Everybody knows that. A lack of accepted safety for use under medical supervision. There we go again with this dose concept. The thing about that is they can say that that's true right now because when it comes to roll it up and smoke it marijuana, there really isn't any kind of standards or any of that shit. So they could just basically say that, hey, guess what? There's no fucking standards, so I guess that's true. And that is hypothetically true because of that reason. But on the surface, again, that's not true because there's nothing dangerous about cannabis at all. There's no way you could overdose on it, so you don't even need medical supervision. A doctor could simply recommend that you use cannabis at your own pace, whatever you want to do. You want to smash 2-gram dabs on your rig at 98% THC? Go right ahead. Have at it. It's not going to hurt you, you know. Maybe you might want to like relax for a few after you do that and not try to like jump up and run laps. I don't know. And then the last point that the Schedule 1 has on it is that it's got a high potential for abuse. You know what? Who cares? It's all medicinal anyway. You're not abusing marijuana. It's not like abuse. Like, and there's people that will abuse marijuana. They'll try. They'll smash that 2-gram 98% dab, and then they'll sit there and play video games for 12 hours while smashing more dabs. But that's their own business. That's their life. That doesn't have fuck all to do with you. All right? First of all. And by the way, that person's probably going to be sitting there not doing shit anyway that's going to impress you, whether they're smashing the dabs or not. Do they deserve to go to jail just because they throw the dabs in on that? Fuck no. I'm so sick of these like nanny state excuses. But furthermore, it's all being nosy. Whose business of it is yours what I do in my spare time? That's like the most underlying theme that should be focused on constantly in these debates. Like, why are you so nosy about what I'm doing, dude? You bored or something? Don't you have a life? Like, why you got to look out your window and see, oh, look at that. Those kids are over there smoking that ganja again. I got to get mad. Like, I don't understand that part. That's what I don't get. High potential for abuse. You know what? You got to look at this whole abuse of drugs and substances issue in a more realistic terms. Does abusing cannabis really even matter? No, it fucking don't. If someone wants to abuse cannabis, that's their business. All right? Some people can abuse cannabis and still get along with a normal life without getting in too many people's way. That's just, and then you also have to look at in terms of, is abusing cannabis on the scale of abusing other things? Where does it really fall? All right? I mean, I know people that abuse coffee that are just annoying as shit. Just running around talking a million miles an hour. I know people that have abused alcohol that are detrimental to society. People that abuse alcohol hurt everyone around them, ruin lives. Just cannabis isn't that. It never is. But these anti-drug people constantly tell you that that's what it is, and it's not true. Anyway, enough of Schedule 1. Here's what Schedule 5 is. I'm just going to read this. And my final thought on this whole Schedule 5 thing is Epidiolex didn't even need to go in Schedule at all. What's the point? It's completely harmless. The only reason that's on the CSA is because it is a marijuana derivative, and they just want to make other people with, CBD products understand that this is some kind of a, upper echelon thing that you can get to if you strive and work your way into it. It's just ridiculous. So Schedule 5, controlled substances, in this schedule have low potential for abuse. Really? No, there's no potential. There's absolutely no way you can abuse CBD. There's no way. So relative to substances listed on Schedule 4. So they're saying that the low potential for abuse is relative to Schedule 3. It's less than Schedule 1 or 2, but abuse may lead to moderate or low physical dependence or high psychological dependence. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I don't buy it. I don't like I said before I even mentioned this shit. I don't believe that this should even be scheduled. There's absolutely no justification for it, and that one strikes me as complete bullshit. All right. And it says, and I guess it consists primarily of preparations containing limited quantities of certain narcotics. So that's bullshit too. There's no narcotics in it. There's no THC in it. It's just CBD. Even if there's trace amounts of THC in there, I don't think that's a big deal. I mean, when you're talking about something that is almost all CBD, any amount of THC, like you're going to be talking about somewhere in the less than 5%, is not going to affect anybody. And by the way, THC is not a narcotic. It should never be considered a narcotic. It's classified as a psychedelic. A lot of that has to do with the fact that it's a tetrahydra, if you look at the molecule, and how molecules bind to receptors and neurotransmitters and stuff. A little sciencey. But the bottom line is it's not a narcotic. All right, a narcotic is usually something that's like an opioid, I would think. Narcotics are something that have a narcotic effect and are highly addictive. So I don't know what they're talking about there. I don't see why it's in Schedule 5. Other examples of Schedule 5 include cough preparations containing not more than 200 milligrams of codeine. So Sizurup or Robitussin, Phenagrin with codeine, whatever. Robitussin AC. I don't know about what that is, but I'm guessing that that's the one that has the codeine in it. So, whatever. Schedule 5. DEA, hypocritical as ever. Here's their tweet. DEA headquarters announces Epidiolex contains, or a CBD cannabis marijuana extract will be placed in Schedule 5 of the CSA. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't read the press release. Here it is. I'm not going to read it. I'm sorry I spent this much time on this video. I'll put the description or the link to this in the description. But that's all I got on this. Tune in for the next one. Later.